Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com, and this is Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations. Now, I wanted to take a moment here to uh, kind of put a framework on this conversation. Too often, I log on, I go live, and we are like in it, in the conversation because I'm so excited, and I've recognized that there's a number of people that are watching this for the first time or kind of started watching a number of shows and really don't know kind of the background or kind of what we're doing here, and basically my theory or the purpose of this is just to have a conversation and show the power within the conversation, and recognize that sometimes we can use the same words, but we can have totally different meanings and totally different ways that it's occurring to us. And when we have those different occurrences or different meanings, now we are having different conversations. And too often that creates a disconnection when what we want is to create a connection. So within that context, our word for today is curious. Curious is one of my core values. It is something that I've mentioned before was, I don't want to say it was beaten out of me, but it wasn't encouraged. Let's just say, sometimes you want to say nice, you want to talk about your family, you want to say nice things, right? So it wasn't encouraged, mainly because they felt that the things that I was curious about was things that I shouldn't be curious about, or things that weren't as important as the other things that were going on in our lives. And so I learned, or I made a story be that my curiosity was wrong. And so there were a number of areas in my life where I stopped being curious. And it gave me a lot of pain, and in some cases, resentment to my family and the people around me that wouldn't allow me to be curious. So with that in mind, I am going to bring in a friend so we can have a conversation with the word curious. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, William.
This is the time where I invite my guests to introduce themselves any way that feels comfortable to.
Okay, well, I'm Ron McClelland, and when people ask what it is I do, I'll often say, well, I'm a bum.
Right.
I'm a bum. The acronym being BUM, Black Urban Monk.
Right. Okay. I can relate to that, right?
So, but vocationally, I work as an actor and a director. I'm a trained spiritual director with my own practice. And I also speak a great deal in churches, pastoral care ministry. So actor, pastor, spiritual director.
Right. And I'll bum, right? No, that's great. So, how does curious land for you? How does that show up for you?
William, it's a topic that I've actually been working through for the last year or so, or I should say it's been an interest, but it's only been in the last few months that I've been intentional about pursuing what it means for me to be curious. Only because I've been experiencing some stagnation in my life, and stuck in certain routines, stuck in certain ruts that have been brought about, whether it's circumstantially or relationally or even spiritually, regarding my own relationship with God and so forth,
Right.
and creatively. So I realized that a key for me, and I believe others as well, is this idea of becoming curious and asking more questions, but not only when there's a problem,
Right.
but as a spiritual practice to get into the habit of becoming more curious, other people for relationships' sake, more curious about who I am as a person,
Right.
and curious about what God is already doing in the world in order to move me forward more.
No, I totally appreciate that, and I understand that, and I think for me, I think the biggest challenge that Curious has caused in my life, as I mentioned in the setup, is the distinction between asking questions and questioning. And I think too often when we're curious and when we're exercising within that with others, many people see that as questioning their life, or questioning what they think and everything. And it's and I try to tell people that I'm not questioning you. I'm just trying to get clarity, get some understanding of this, so I can be fully engaged in this. And have you seen that distinction happen,
Oh
and
yes,
being a bum?
oh definitely. You know, back to what you even opened the show saying about curiosity being kind of quenched in you at an early age. Um, I read recently how children from the ages of say 3 to 5 ask about 300 to 400 questions a day,
Mm,
but by the time they're 4, that curiosity is already lessening and diminishing. And I think the reason for that is because environmentally, not only are we uh, taught not to question authority,
mm,
that we're to take them at their word, but to be curious now becomes an annoyance, an
right.
irritation, and maybe even an act of rebellious. And I think for those of us who maybe grew up in religious environments,
Right.
that
Yeah, I think the other thing, when we look at the time that we're in with COVID-19, or Corona, however, whatever language that we put around that, and different stages of reopening, or or how people see quarantine and stay at home. Sometimes any questioning of leaders, medical professionals, each other, is seen as rebellion, or anything like that. And it's hard to really wrap our minds around. I guess I'll speak for myself. Exactly what this virus is, and how can it affect me? How can I keep myself safe and the people that I love safe, when it seems to be moving around with people's understanding, or how people are relating to it?
well, back to your point about questioning, with a certain suspicion regarding authority, we really are suspicious about authority and
Hmm.
experts, and
Right.
culturally speaking, even while we're suspicious about those who are presumed to be experts,
Right.
we all want to be one.
Right.
and,
Right.
and social media gives us that opportunity. And the problem, though, as I experience, is that when reality, truth, facts, or whatever becomes politicized or ideologically driven,
Right.
now we're no longer asking questions because we're curious or interested in how others think or what they know. We're now about winning arguments
Right.
and having authority over another.
Right. And I think because um, I look back at my life as when when I felt that my curiosity was tampered down or quenched. I I just kind of showed up as, okay, this is the information that I know, and I'm going to run with it. And
Right.
I'm going to run through the wall, and I'm going to, I am going. You know what? I don't trust that masks are going to keep me safe, so I'm not going to wear it. Right, since I ask questions about it, nobody wants to answer me, I'm going to just go. And that way of being, or I felt that, yes, there's a lot of things that I achieved. There was a lot of things that I was doing, but I also have a history of a lot of broken relationships. I have a lot of history of estranged relationships, because in my mind, I wasn't given the opportunity, or I lost my ability to ask the questions to kind of engage and connect with people on the level that I wanted.
I can relate. I can relate. I think a lot of that. I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think a lot of that, at least for me, has to do with safety. The need to feel safe. I mean, think about it. The moment you become curious and you start asking a lot of questions, or sincerely putting yourself in places where you're truly curious in the sense of making discoveries,
Great.
it puts you in a vulnerable position. It
Hmm.
puts you at risk relationally, because it means you have to engage further.
Right.
Question, right? It means,
Right.
or you're asking questions about your place in the world, or what's expected of you. And even if you get excited about that, it now means that you're entering into places that may lead to possibilities, but it means you're out of your safety zone, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
things that lead to life, if we don't feel safe, rather than becoming curious for the sake of discovery, we
Right.
now want to gather information. So my tendency, especially when I was younger,
Mhm.
was to gain
Right.
mastery, learn as much as I can so that I can master this situation. So I'm no longer curious for the sake of growth or relationship, but for the sake of achievement and safety and security. I don't know if that
Right.
makes any sense.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. That is great. I want to connect because we have, a label, a shared label of, actor. I haven't used that actor in a while. And I just recognized that a lot of challenges that I had within my acting is that I wasn't curious. I was, more concerned about getting the lines right
Mhm.
than being curious in, the craft, the artistry, to just really kind of the richness of being an actor. For me, it was like, just, get the lines, get the blocking, get the, and I'll be fine. And I realized that that way of being, or that way of showing up, would not kind of connect with people, directors, actors, on a level that I can make a career out of that at all. And I think it all kind of boiled down to the level of curiosity that I had within that.
No, that's a good point. I mean, as creative people, as artists, as actors, we both know that a part of the creative process is being interested in
Right.
people,
Right.
well, that we can embody
Mhm.
life, truth, and all that sort of stuff. But I, I have a similar issue. I guess for me, it was as a younger actor, I would often spend hours in public places
Mm,
observing people.
mm,
I would ask questions about the people I'm watching, the
mm.
people who are shopping in malls. And I would literally, as I'm watching their body language and overhearing conversations, try to put myself in their shoes so that
Wow.
I learn. But here's the thing, though, I wasn't doing it because I was sincerely, authentically curious. They served a mere utilitarian purpose for me. How can
Wow.
I use this data
Right.
in my art?
Right.
And I realized years ago that I was doing that.
Mm.
And in reality, there was nothing transformative about that. So I started intentionally in my day to day life asking more questions and spending more time trying to empathize with other people's realities. I could become more human in the process, you know?
Great. Absolutely. I totally get that. Trying to just get, enough information so we can go forward and not really connecting to that. It's like that database. I can definitely relate to creating that database.
Yeah.
Uh, and the other thing that came up when you were sharing was um, the people that we love or the people that we're closest to. Um, sometimes we don't get the space to ask questions because there is this expectation because you're my wife, because you're my child, there is I don't need to be curious about anything. It is like these labels dictate how you're going to show up in my life. And
Right.
any question, sometimes I'll bring my wife and into this conversation, is that anytime I question the activities of my wife to gain an understanding, it is now I'm questioning the relationship. It's like I'm questioning my love for you, and I'm questioning, and it's like whoa, where did we go, right?
Right.
And then it kind of slows down the questioning and the curiosity. And I think most of the times in our relationships we have to stay curious, interested in what's going on, what's happening, what you're feeling. And when we give that up, we just become shells of ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, and that's that's great, Bill. I'm right now, full disclosure, I'm going through a season where I'm asking myself, what is it? What's going on with me in specific relationships that I'm even reluctant to go to those dangerous places that you just spoke to. You know
Mm,
what is it because I'm afraid of how people would react? Would they see my curiosity as interrogation,
right.
or my need for intimacy and asking those kinds of questions or deeper friendship is a threat? And what I realize is that I have an awareness of a tendency where, because of social media, the tension that's in certain relationships, that to even ask questions or to be asked questions from others means that I now have to engage more
Right.
than I feel I have adequate time to,
Right.
that I have bandwidth for.
Right.
And so I react, I shut it down, I get defensive, but I'm learning to still press through, to press through those moments.
Right. It's those uncomfortable, um, I guess, connections to our humanity, right? That what I call the messiness of our humanity. I feel that everything that I touch or that I relate to has to be clean and orderly, and and all that. And if how people talk to me doesn't, it's not clean and orderly and and pride, I don't have time for this. No drama, right?
And I had an encounter like that yesterday, actually, and I literally had to stop myself because I wanted to shut this person down, because not only their reaction to something that was important to me, but an issue that was important. And because I'm thinking about curiosity,
Right.
uh, my default was to put him into a box to label them.
Hmm.
Okay, I know people like this who think that way,
Right.
to use my skill to label. And I realized, no, this person arrived at this place through a series of relationships, a series of events. They're smart, they're intelligent, they're not dummies.
Right.
So I become more curious. And after about 15 minutes of asking myself
Right.
questions regarding why I felt this way towards this person,
Right.
I suddenly became interested in asking legitimate honest questions so I could better understand how this person arrived at this place. And my attitude towards them actually changed.
Wow.
And I'm literally, even this morning, I was thinking about it. I'm looking forward to engaging this person to ask some tough questions. But now I feel safer about it because I know my own heart is right towards them.
Right. And oh, that's, um, I guess the first word that came up, and sometimes I try to edit my words because I don't know, because how I'm seeing, trying to look good. That was just beautiful. I mean, I think the level of, honesty and awareness of, I had no interest for this person, and it's like, why is that? And then kind of really do that self-evaluation and
Yeah.
self-discovery and say, you know what? Hey, that's has nothing to do with him. That has nothing to do with anything else. And now I'm looking forward to making, that connection. I'm looking forward to having this connection and conversation. And that is a prayer that I have for this world. I mean,
Yeah.
there are so many um, life and death issues and concerns
Ah,
that it feels like we are just not interested in solving. And it's just like, it's just really, it hurts my heart,
yeah.
and, I understand that you can only have a conversation, true conversation, with people who want to be in conversation with you, right? Because we talk at each other and call it communicating, or having a conversation. And I say what I say, you say what you say, and just kind of move through that. And when one of us stops, we kind of just keep it moving, right? And all that.
Right.
There is another part of it, of curious, that I wanted to bring into this conversation. Because of, not just because of the label that you started with, as a bum, but it's really been a part of my spiritual journey, and recognizing that my life, and my understanding of my life, is spiritual. And the more that I embrace that, the more that I can kind of show up in this physical form in my relationships. So how did you mentioned before about the curiosity of, of God, source, how things are are showing
Yeah.
up. Was it the curiosity of, his love, his plan, his, the activities, or was it in general?
Yeah. From me,
Yeah.
uh, my curiosity in this season that I'm going through is born out of necessity.
Hmm.
Old ways no longer work.
Right. I got it.
They're no longer working.
Right.
Uh, as a teacher, I've taught college, I've taught high school, I teach in churches, I teach one-on-one, I do small group facilitated workshops, and I'm the guy supposed to have the answers.
Hmm.
I have a rule of life that I work for. I have my spiritual practices and habits and my beliefs that I bring to every situation, and
Right.
they've served well up to a point.
Right.
But circumstantially, I think I shared with you in our own private conversations. My mother died several weeks ago. She passed away. And so much of my life in recent years was spent caring for my mom and my dad. And so my life was ordered a certain way
Right.
where a lot of important pieces no longer exist.
Mhm.
And I realized that not only have I become stagnant, but even ministerially, I realize I want more out of life.
Right.
Really, I want more. And so I've had to go to God and literally ask, um, or rather listen to him ask me, what is it you want me to do for you? The way he asked blind Bartimaeus in,
Right.
his, in the Gospels, you know?
Right.
So what is it you want me to do for you? Because I feel that helpless, that vulnerable,
Right.
as blind Bartimaeus begging for the scrap others would toss his way.
Right.
I feel that way right now spiritually.
Right.
So I'm asking questions, but also exploring what is it I really want God to.
Right. And I love that story, that your connection, and because it shows up in my life many times, is that, in my time with God, it is, you know, the obvious is, for me is, okay, you're blind, so ask for that, you're begging, so ask, ask, that's probably something that you need to ask. But
Right.
most of the times it is something not spoken, not seen, not, think that is going on, that there is an ask, there is an interest in, that sometimes that we miss. And I think for myself, um, um, I've had, bring my wife in this again within this. I said there is a difference between being curious and being nosy. And sometimes I believe, and so the difference is, that when I'm curious, there's actionable information that I'm gathering.
Yes.
There is something, so I can, I can jump on a hill, or I can do something, I can, play or whatever. I can do something with it. When I'm nosy, it's like I just want to know. It's like, I just, it's like, hey, does that go all the way to the other side? Why? Are you going to go to the other side? No, I just want to know. I mean, and I realized within my spiritual life, there were a lot of questions that I was asking God, was just being nosy, and not trusting in God, and not having faith, in His Word, and His promises for my life. And it's like, I need to stop being nosy, and stay curious.
I like that. Two things come to mind. One of the Psalms, and I don't remember which one, but it's when David is saying, uh, "My eyes, O God, are not raised too high. My heart is not too proud. I do not concern myself with things too great and marvelous for me.
Right.
I
Okay.
only weaned my soul like a weaned child with its mother." And oftentimes, we're not coming to God with questions like a weaned child. It's
Right.
usually we're anxious, or we're nosy,
Right.
or we're just, it's just scattered energy. There's no intentionality behind it or true curiosity,
Right.
something grasp at. And the other thing is, can I share a quick
Absolutely.
illustration?
Absolutely.
George Washington Carver.
Okay.
He's a hero of mine, the African American scientist who did so much with the peanut.
Right.
And he shares a story about how he went to the Lord and he said, "God, show me the wonders of your universe. I want to know the secrets of the universe as a scientist." And he felt the Lord say to him, "Sorry, little man, that's too much for you." Lord. So he says, "Okay, uh, give me greater understanding about man and the purposes of humans. Why are we? And how and why do we exist? And what is the great aim of our purpose here on earth?" And the Lord says to him, "No, you're still thinking too highly of yourself and the thing that you're trying to pry into. He's smaller." And George Washington Carver says, "Okay, teach me about the peanut."
Hmm.
He says, "That's still infinitely beyond you, but that's better."
Right.
And he said, "Well, what do you want to know?" And all George said was, "Hey, how do I make a certain kind of milk?"
Right.
And out of that simple curiosity, but narrowing his gaze with
Hmm.
humility,
Mm.
hundreds upon hundreds of uh, inventions and products were created that
Right.
literally saved the South because of the discoveries he made that benefited agriculture, all
Right.
because his curiosities that were so large and out here, prying that were really beyond, but
Wow.
he limited his curiosity to the peanut. So right now, I've been intentionally praying for peanut-sized faith and asking God to give me curiosity about the small things in my day-to-day life.
Wow. And that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that story because, you know, um, I often have this balance between the smallness and the bigness of my life, you
Yes.
know, and feeling that, hey, I want to stay humble. I want to really kind of keep things in perspective, but really honor the feelings and the knowing that I have that there is something big that if I step into, so this is how God wants me to live, and it's like that balance. And I think what I got from that story is that there is a focus. If I am curious about just one area of my life, of this big
That,
master plan of my life, it will unlock it all, right? Right?
that,
But just focus on that. And so no, I mean, it's kind of funny. Yesterday, um, I was led to say that I have this big announcement for my business today, and I'll tell you a secret. Um, I had no announcement. There was like nothing. There was a lot of things, and I said there's a lot of ducks that I'm trying to get together. I posted a picture of ducks. And it's like, hey, I've been working on some ducks, and I'm gonna share some ducks tomorrow. And but I think within this conversation, I know what the announcement is. I know, it's like, boom, there it is, because there is this focus of what I am called to do, and it's just staying curious, and focus on your curiosity instead of just this aimless,
yeah. Aimless grabbing for certainty,
right,
for
for
security.
certainty, right. Because there is this, I've been really embracing the whole incompleteness of my life. If I believe, as we say in church, God didn't make no accidents, right? And Jeremiah talks, that he knew, I knew you before the foundations of the world and before you in your mother's womb. It is so there is a you, um, that is before all of this. And that the more that I connect to that, the more that I can maneuver through, this form that I'm
Good.
in, and embrace, you know, um, the you that even Dr. Seuss talks about. No one's youer than you.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes, that's fun and kind of exciting to say for kids, but too often there is always the you compared to someone else. And the more that I compare myself to someone else, the more I lose myself.
True.
I lose an understanding or an awareness of myself, and even
Yeah.
interest or curiosity of myself.
Just,
Um, and that is just, a very difficult place to be.
well, it is. And I think sometimes, to greater and lesser degree, people, myself included, we try to create a self.
Mm,
There's some label or image that either someone put on us, or we think will suddenly make us a person.
Right.
Like Pinocchio, it'll suddenly make us real,
Right.
a real boy. And what ends up happening is we even lose a curiosity about ourselves. Who am I really? Who God, who have you really created me to be?
Mm.
And and uh, and I think that those kinds of discoveries begins with curiosity
Right.
about who God is,
Right.
curiosity about the image He created me in, and curiosity about the world around us and the choices we need to make. Because I mean, I believe that we are the choices we make,
Right.
and I guess all I'm getting at is this role of curiosity is so all encompassing, where you stop being curious. I think you stop becoming real.
Right.
You stop.
I think how I've broke it down for myself, even though, curiosity, as I said before, is a core value of mine. My understanding from this conversation is just honoring what I'm interested in,
Mm,
what has my interests.
that's good.
And it's like um, you know, this is the third time I brought up my wife, but it's like, um, that I want to, because I'm interested in my wife, I ask questions, right? Because, and it's like, I think a need or desire that we have is to be seen and heard. And I think within that being seen and heard is people to be interested in in us enough to listen to or to see our life and how our life is showing up, and be interested in the things that we're interested in. I mean, and it's not that I have to like what you're interested in. It's
Right.
just that I'm interested. I have found a way, and I'm going to change this, but I did this as a kid, because I was a small kid and I was always in fear that I was going to get beat up because of my smart mouth, right, right, and everything. So anytime I didn't like something, or I felt less of something, I would say, "That's interesting." you know? And it was my way of letting them know that I'm interested, but I'm not really. And it was, and so I knew that I really was. I could care less about what was going on, but they didn't know.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so I am going to drop that because of this conversation, because even if, because I don't want people to think
Mm,
that I care about, or that I have an interest when I don't. If I'm curious, if I'm interested, I will let them know, and not give this backhand compliments or kind of coded language, for myself, and that don't match up with my actions,
that's good. And,
to really move
and they
from
say
forward.
the interesting people, what are those who are interested in others?
Right.
As much of a cliche as that is, I think there's truth to that.
Right. Right. And that's
Yeah.
wow. We could talk about this for hours, but you have a role as a monk, and I don't want to keep and I don't want to keep you from that. I really, I don't know if I've ever shared with you that one um I don't know if it was my first job type of thing that I thought that I wanted was to be a monk. And the reason why, is that how my life was showing up, and how everything, there was so much chaos. I wanted to just focus on praying to God, and just kind of just being a nice guy. That's all I needed. I didn't want a wife. I didn't want anything. I didn't want to be anything else. And I heard clearly that ain't your life. That, it's like, and you're running away, right? And even though that I have monk tendencies, I know that my life is beyond that. And so I can have the moments of disconnection and of reflection and of meditation.
Yes.
But I can also live in my life, you know.
And I think that that's the whole monk thing I joke about, but in reality, it's an ethos that we can practice and live in our day-to-day mundane activities. And once again, to bring it full circle, that's an aspect of being curious, because if we're truly curious and we're asking a lot of questions and we're really responding to Jesus's question to us, what is it you want me to do? And
Mm-hmm.
also asking, who are you, Jesus? You know, in our day-to-day tasks, what we'll
Mm-hmm.
find is that the answer will always lead us back to the humility, the suffering, the life denying, self denying life that Jesus led.
Hmm.
So we get to practice a monk in the sense of cultivating intimacy with God,
Hmm.
the spiritual practices that come not from isolating ourselves on retreat,
Yeah.
but incorporating them into our day to day life and relationships. That's a part of being the quote unquote monk
Right.
that I walk in. And I'm constantly asking, how do I do that better and more authentically? What does that look like in
Right.
a culture like we're experiencing right now?
Wow. No, I definitely appreciate that framing, and I will include that. So I put up your website. If how people can connect with you, anything. Look, it's like right now, a lot of us are still, at home or mainly at home or kind of,
Right.
just online or or what that is there anything coming up that people can see you in or kind of connect with you?
Unfortunately, right now, no. A show that I was directing has been put on pause until the fall,
Right.
late, and the workshops that I were offering has been put on pause. I am in the process of releasing an online workshop on cultivating a rule of life, a spiritual rule of life.
Hmm.
Cultivating spiritual practices daily, weekly,
Right.
monthly.
Right.
That's of interest, so keep an eye out for that.
Okay, and that will be on your website, or we can find you on the social media.
Yeah, Facebook, Ron McClelland, Spiritual Formation in the Arts, or my website, ronmcclelland.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Ron.
You,
This has definitely been great. I don't talk to you enough, but it's
certainly,
always it's always life when I do get to talk to you. Could you stay in the green room for a moment while I end the show? And so wonderful. Wow, that was great. I hope you enjoyed that conversation around curiosity. I'm really amazed, and I really um, I got this for myself that curiosity for me, plain and simple, is just acknowledging and appreciating what has my interests or what I'm interested in. And the more that I honor that, the more that I'm curious about that, the more that I will ask questions in a loving and thoughtful way to really connect with people, on the level that I want. Um, I would love to hear how this conversation has came up for you. I am going to be introducing some things, some tools, some things that you can have while you're in this conversation with me, and after the conversation is over, so you can continue this conversation for yourself. And I have um, uh, a live that is going to be later today at 4 p.m. on the IamWilliamBrown.com page. So if you are interested in some things that I have going, and you're curious, I will be there. So the world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll see you tomorrow or 4 o'clock today. Thank you.